so happy we're alive.
And so it's very much like coming back from the cave of the artifacts of the previous civilization that contradicts the dogma of the contemporary world, namely the artifacts of the medicinal cannabis before it was taken off the market, when it was still available to the physician for prescribing. And all the literature that I'd reviewed of the 90 years or 100 years of the medicinal use of my forebears. And so I have confidence. I know I'm not wrong because of having the previous observations of physicians who may not have been technically or technologically advanced, but they weren't stupid and they were very observant. They were good clinicians because that's all they had was their senses and experience. Like the description of one physician administering to a patient and having forgotten to put the medicine in the saddlebags before the long trip to do the house call, bringing you back to the realization this is pre-germ theory and just power of observation, using the senses and the kinds of things that we used to be taught in medical school of observing the patient, taking, smelling, feeling, probing, touching, palpating, that, and of course the history of learning about the patient, which is kind of like being forgotten with modern technology and the sad regression of, well, let's promote some potions. Ironically medieval as far as conception, instead of looking at somebody in an evolved and holistic way, the way an 18th century person would look at another human being. The Age of Enlightenment as compared with the medieval ages of the noxious effluvium of the night vapors and other kinds of roving spirits of the night. Alas, we're having the same kind of regression to this alloplastic view of the world instead of the empowerment and the dignity of the person.
What's alloplastic mean?
Change all the scenery and all the details instead of yourself. Clothe yourself in great finery, go on shopping binges and become a good materialist, but don't look at yourself. Become distracted and become driven by your consumption. But don't think about your being when you fit into all this.
Do you ever have people responding to your position on anything, categorizing you as, you know, in any particular way, like pigeonholing you?
Oh, they probably do.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's what explains,
like,
I think...
Like he's just a left-winger, or is that what they say, or...
It's difficult to...
He's a pothead? I don't know.
It's difficult to... Well, it's difficult to characterize me as being left-wing, because after all, I'm a recovering Republican, and...
You're a recovering Republican.
Right, and libertarian. After the Republican phase.
And what's your political affiliation now?
I decided to settle for the moment with being a Green.
Oh,
no chance of having that ever prevail as majority party. But I'm just really sad to see what republicanism has deteriorated into. It's kind of like how it's been hijacked by the right-wing radical fringe, and now we have the products of this. Go back to the Bush administration, the Ashcroft, the Hutchinsons, the Walters. Walters is more of a technocrat, an apparatchik, whereas Ashcroft is more of the failed politician ideologue. Almost a comic book stereotype.
You don't have any respect for him at all?
Well, I respect his sincerity. I really do, I think.
I mean, he does come across as sincere.
I think he's sincere and competent. He has a certain worldview that I find antithetic to modern democracy and what I usually think of America.
You said sincere and competent?
Incompetent.
Sincere and incompetent.
Yes.
And that's related to his worldview, which is what?
Which is the sheep shepherd model of governance. And to shut up and be still and don't ask questions, which is more of the sheep shepherd worldview. And accept your superiors as your teachers and don't make a wave. Well, that's really a lethal kind of characteristic to encourage, because that just sets up the unsuspecting citizen become something like a participant in Jonestown, become the cannon fodder for some demagogue or some dictator, some false prophet, some antichrist. Hey, what do you think the antichrist is going to look like? Some crazed hippie? No. The antichrist will be politic and articulate. That's the way he's described. And I think a lot of the right-wingers try to fit that mold.
The Antichrist mold?
Yes. Because they're the ones that are working to destroy America's future in the global market.
How's that?
Well, because if you have this giant enforcement corrections complex, it's kind of like an institute of lower education or warehousing that has to be supported by the rest of the population and drains money away from the education. So why do you think we have the H-1B program? To drain brains out of other countries because of the negligence in developing our own technical training programs and the unwillingness of industry to make this kind of investment in their own future. Sort of like taking the short-sighted measure of, well, let's suck some brains out of these third world countries and show them the American way and seduce them into coming over, and then, .com bubble has burst high and dry and stranded in America. I ask you, is that a rational foreign or social policy? Is that a rational economic policy? I think not. How come money isn't being spent in the enhancement of the educational systems? California is this disgrace. This Golden State, something like way down in performance of their